Welcome to your deep dive. Today, we're going to be tackling the book of Job,
Yeah.
specifically a sermon that dives into the very first scene, a meeting in the heavenly court, and it might turn your whole understanding of suffering upside down.
Yeah, it's an unexpected start, right? Like most people think of Job on his ash heap,
Right.
but we're thrown right into heaven with the sons of God presenting themselves before the Lord. Even Satan's there.
Yeah, it's like walking in on a cosmic board meeting.
Yeah.
What's the significance of this setting?
Well, I think it establishes God's sovereignty right from the get-go.
Okay.
This isn't just about Earth, but the entire universe.
Mm.
And it throws a curveball at how we view Satan. He's still subject to God, like he's a piece on the board, not some equal opposite force.
Oh, so he's not like the antithesis or the...
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
So, and then God points out Job, blameless and upright, he says.
Right.
But Satan, always the skeptic, throws down a challenge. Like, is Job really devout or just enjoying the divine pokes?
It's a question we might even ask ourselves.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
When someone seems too good to be true, we wonder if there's some ulterior motive.
Right.
But here it becomes this cosmic wager with Job's very life on the line.
Yeah, that's where I get chills.
Yeah.
God actually allows this test.
Right.
It makes you wonder about free will versus divine plan. Is Job really choosing this righteousness, or is he a pawn in a bigger game?
And that question is at the heart of what makes Job so enduring.
Right.
Even today, we wrestle with how much control we have versus destiny.
Yeah.
But the sermon takes it a step further. It argues that Job's suffering isn't just a test. It's necessary for God's glory to be evident.
Okay, hold on. So someone's misery is showcasing God's what greatness. How does that work?
Well, think of it this way. If good things only happen to good people,
Yeah.
are they being good out of genuine love for God or just wanting the rewards?
Oh.
True faith, the sermon argues, is the kind that endures even when there's any earthly benefit, proving God's worthy regardless of the circumstance.
That's a tough concept, especially if you're going through a rough time yourself.
Yeah.
But the sermon goes even further, and it suggests that even Satan plays a role in this cosmic drama.
Right. It's one of those ideas that makes you go, wait, what?
Yeah.
But the sermon argues that Satan, by testing and challenging, actually helps to reveal the depth of faith.
Okay.
Like a blacksmith hammering out impurities. The hardships, while awful, make the genuine shine brighter.
So Satan as an unwilling refining tool,
Yeah.
that flips the whole good versus evil thing on its head.
Yeah.
But it's also saying that even the bad stuff has a purpose and cross plan.
Exactly.
Yeah, it makes you think about all those times we question, why bad things happen to us.
Right.
Maybe it's not about punishment, but about this refining process,
It's true.
revealing something deeper.
And it ties back to that heavenly court scene, right?
Okay.
God isn't some dictator demanding blind obedience. He's portrayed as open to challenge, even from Satan. It suggests he values genuine faith that can stand up to questioning and doubt.
That's a very different image than the God who, smites people for looking at the ark wrong.
Right, yeah.
This God welcomes the debate. It's
Yeah.
like, go ahead, bring your best arguments.
Exactly.
So it makes you wonder, what if our doubts and struggles aren't something to hide,
Right.
but they're part of, a dialogue? It's
Yeah.
not about being perfect,
Yeah.
but just being honest in our search for truth, even when it's messy.
Right.
So this sermon talks about the tested genuineness of faith.
Yeah.
Not just going through the motions, but
Yeah.
clinging to belief when it'd be easier to let go.
Yeah.
Does the text give any clues as to how Job manages that?
Was a powerful image of faith being like gold tested by fire.
Okay.
The impurities burn away, leaving behind only what's truly valuable. Job's not some superhuman saint. He rages. He questions God.
Yeah.
But that raw honesty is part of what makes his faith so real.
So it's not about pretending that everything's fine.
Right.
It's about wrestling with it, even
Yeah.
arguing with God.
Yeah.
That's strangely comforting, actually.
Yeah.
But how does this ancient story connect to, say, someone struggling with job loss or illness today?
Well, the sermon uses Job's cosmic test as a lens to view our own challenges.
Okay.
We may not have Satan literally breathing down our necks.
Yeah.
But we face moments where giving up on faith, on hope, seems easier.
Right.
Job shows us that struggle can refine our beliefs, making them stronger, more genuine.
But the sermon also connects this to the second coming of Christ.
Yes.
It's like saying our faithfulness, NW, matters in the grand scheme of things.
It elevates individual suffering to part of a larger purpose. It's not just about enduring hardship,
Okay.
but that endurance being a testament to God's glory when Christ returns.
Okay.
It gives even the smallest acts of faith this cosmic significance.
Wow, suddenly my to-do list feels less important.
Right.
But there's also this really bold statement, the glory of God is more important than our comfort. That's a tough one to swallow, especially when we're the ones uncomfortable.
It's a provocative statement, and I think easily misinterpreted.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean God enjoys our pain,
Okay.
but that his ultimate goal is something grander than just individual happiness.
Okay.
It's about revealing his perfect character to the universe.
Mm.
And sometimes that involves suffering.
So it's not about us being miserable, but this bigger picture that we just can't fully grasp.
Right.
But how does our suffering play into that?
Yeah.
Is it just to prove a point to Satan, like a cosmic game of one-upmanship?
Well, the sermon suggests it's more nuanced than that.
Okay.
It's about revealing the true nature of faith,
Mm-hmm.
which then reflects back on God's character.
Okay.
It's like a masterpiece painting.
Okay.
Individual brushstrokes might seem chaotic up close,
Yeah.
but from afar, they create this stunning whole.
Okay, I'm starting to see the bigger picture,
Yeah.
but let's talk about Satan's role again. This sermon says he has a necessary, albeit unpleasant, ministry in God's government.
Right.
That's a lot to unpack.
It's definitely paradoxical.
Yeah.
The idea that even the force we perceive as pure evil somehow serves God's purpose
Right.
is mind-bending.
Yeah.
But the sermon uses this imagery of God's hand stretching out,
Okay.
able to both touch and smite Job.
Mm-hmm.
It suggests God is actively involved, not just giving Satan free rein.
So Satan's not some rogue agent out there,
Right.
but he's working within limits set by God.
Yeah.
So like God's saying, you can test and refine him, but you can't break him.
Right.
There's still this protective element even in the midst of the trial.
Exactly. It gives us a glimpse into God's character.
Yeah.
He's just merciful.
Yeah.
Ultimately wanting the best for Job, even if the path to that best is painful.
Okay.
It reminds us that just because we don't understand why something's happening doesn't
Yeah.
mean there's no loving purpose behind it.
That's a comforting thought, especially when facing those, like, why me moments.
Mm-hmm.
But this brings up free will again. If God's orchestrating all this,
Right.
do we actually have any choices?
The book of Job doesn't give a simple answer, and neither does this sermon.
Okay.
It's more about acknowledging the mystery. We see the limits on Satan,
Mm-hmm.
but Job still makes choices within his suffering.
Okay.
How he responds, how he questions, how he ultimately holds on to faith.
So it's not a puppet show.
Right.
We're not just dangling on strings.
Exactly.
There's this tension between God's plan and our own agency.
Right.
It's like he sets the stage, but how we play our role is up to us.
That's a powerful takeaway. And it leads to another point the sermon emphasizes, the limitations of our understanding. We can't fully grasp the mind of God.
Right.
His ways are higher than ours.
It's like trying to explain calculus to a toddler.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
we just don't have the capacity to fully grasp the complexity of the divine plan.
Right.
But does that mean we just give up trying to make sense of it all?
Not at all. It's about accepting that not knowing is okay. It's about having faith even without all the answers.
Okay.
Trusting that there's a reason, even when we can't see it.
So it's not about blind faith,
Right.
but informed faith, acknowledging the mystery while still seeking understanding.
Yeah.
This sermon keeps circling back to God's glory.
Yes.
Like it's the key to the whole thing. But
Right.
what does that actually mean?
Yeah.
Is it just God wanting like praise and accolades?
The sermon digs deeper than that.
Okay.
God's glory isn't about ego or needing validation.
Okay.
It's the outward expression of his perfect character,
Mm.
his love, justice, mercy.
Okay.
And the idea is that the entire universe, including our lives, ultimately revolves around revealing that glory.
So it's not just about us down here on Earth, but this grand cosmic purpose. It's like
Yeah.
we're all part of a giant symphony.
Yeah.
And even the dissonant notes contribute to the overall beauty.
Right. And the sermon makes this bold claim, the well-being of the universe depends on the glory of God. It suggests our individual lives, even our suffering, matter on a scale we can barely fathom.
That's a lot of pressure.
It is.
But it also makes those like why me moments
Yeah.
feel less about personal misfortune and more about playing a part in something much larger.
It's a reframing of perspective. It doesn't erase the pain,
Right.
but it offers a way to see meaning, even purpose in it.
Mm.
And it connects back to Job.
Okay.
His trials weren't just about him, but about revealing something about the nature of faith
Mm-hmm.
of God to the entire universe.
It makes you wonder, what are our job moments?
Yeah,
What are the challenges that, while painful, might be refining us?
right.
Revealing something important, not just about ourselves, but about God's character to those around us.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like suffering becomes this unexpected path to a deeper kind of blessing.
Right.
Not that anyone wants to go through hardship,
Right.
but the sermon suggests there's a transformation that can happen there.
It challenges that common idea of a blessed life,
Mm.
being one free of problems. The book of Job flips that on its head.
Yeah.
True blessing, true spiritual depth
Mm.
might come through the struggle,
Mm-hmm.
not in the absence of it.
So Satan goes off to do his terrible but strangely necessary work, as the sermon put it.
Right.
But there's a specific instruction from God: test Job, but don't take his life.
Yeah.
Why draw that line?
It raises the question of limits, right?
Okay.
If God's all-loving, why allow any suffering?
Right.
This detail suggests even within this cosmic drama,
Yeah.
there are boundaries.
Okay.
God's not indifferent to Job's pain. He's not a cruel puppet master.
So it's like this tension between wanting to reveal his glory,
Yeah.
but also loving his creation.
Right.
It's not about sacrificing Job for some grand spectacle.
Right.
There's a deeper purpose at play.
And that's where faith comes in, right?
Okay.
We may not understand the WHY of suffering,
Yeah.
but trusting that God's working for good even when it hurts. It's a hard concept.
Yeah.
But Job's story offers a glimpse into that larger perspective.
So we've gone from heaven's boardroom to the depths of human suffering and back to this idea of God's glory. What's the big takeaway for us regular folks down here?
Well, I think the book of Job and this sermon leave us with questions to wrestle with, not easy answers.
Okay.
Do our struggles, even the small ones, have a purpose?
Yeah.
Could they be refining us like gold in the fire?
And if God allows suffering, even sets limits on it, what does that say about his character?
Right.
Is he distant and detached, or intimately involved, working through even the painful parts of our lives?
That's the heart of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe it's not about finding all the answers, but learning to trust the one who holds them.
Mm-hmm.
Job never got a full explanation.
Right.
But his story shows us that faith can endure, even thrive, in the midst of the unknown.
So we end this deep dive not with a period, but a question mark.
Yeah.
What are your job moments?
Right.
How can you view your own struggles through this lens of faith and God's glory? It's something to ponder, to wrestle with, maybe even to find solaces. And until next time, keep diving.
Now that we have unpacked Book of Job a bit, we encourage you to reflect on how these truths can be applied to your life this week. For ongoing encouragement, follow Grace Gospel Church on social media GGEFDE on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and more. Subscribe for more deep dive conversations each week as we explore the messages from Grace Gospel Church. For more resources to grow in faith, visit www.gracegospel.church. We pray for your continued growth in faith.